Well, hello. I've been looking at the offerings in the book of Numbers. Now, those of you who know my profession probably know that I rather like numbers. And I do like the book of Numbers with the censuses and all that kind of thing. And today I've been looking at the offerings. And we don't make offerings like this anymore. But they have a lot to teach us. So every morning, the Jews had to make a daily offering every morning and every evening. And the old word for it was the oblation, the morning and evening oblation. And they had to offer a lamb with fine flour and olive oil every morning and every evening. And on the Sabbath, they had to offer 2 lambs every morning and every evening. Now, what does this mean for us? Well, it talks about our daily walk with the Lord, really, doesn't it? That today we need to start the day with Jesus and end the day with him too. And there's one of the other offerings, of course, is the Passover, which is well known to most of us. It's the day when the Israelites remembered when they were delivered from Egypt, and they had to bring an offering of a lamb, and they had to cook it and eat it and remember how God had delivered them from Egypt. And then there's the Feast of Weeks, which is Pentecost. And the Feast of Weeks was the day of the first fruits, the day of harvest. And it's interesting that the first fruits on the day of Pentecost in the New Testament, there were 3,000 people saved. And that was part of the first fruits of the gospel of Jesus that was fulfilled on that day. And then there was the Day of Atonement, which was the day when the high priest went into the Holy of Holies and offered an offering for the sins of the people. 1 goat was offered and another goat was sent out into the wilderness as the scapegoat, still a word that we use today. And then there was the Feast of Tabernacles, which was celebrating the harvest. It was reaping with rejoicing, really, and it was on the 15th day of the 7th month, when they had to offer every day, for 7 days, they had to offer bulls, rams and goats. And the number of bulls decreased with each day. So this first day was 13 bulls, 2 rams and 14 male lambs. And on the next day it was 12 bulls and 2 rams and 14 lambs, and so on, right through the week of the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, Jesus attended the Feast of Tabernacles. We read about it in John chapter 7, and it says that on the last day, the greatest day of the feast, Jesus stood and said in a loud voice, "If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me and in the scriptures has said, streams of living water will flow from within him," and by this he meant the Spirit. So it seems from this that Jesus knew that these feasts that had been offered for generations of Israelites and were still being offered at the temple would never satisfy the wrath of a holy God. And so we find that Jesus went on after the Passover. He instigated the Last Supper, but the Day of Atonement was fulfilled at the cross. The Passover was also fulfilled at the cross, and the Feast of Weeks was fulfilled at Pentecost. And the daily offerings we make by faith. But when Jesus instigated the Last Supper, it was the Passover meal, and he ate it with his disciples, and he told them to remember, no longer to remember the deliverance from Egypt or any of the past history of the Israelites. He simply said, "Do this in remembrance of me." He also said that he would not eat the bread or drink the wine of the Passover again until the kingdom of heaven. And so instead of having to sacrifice bulls and rams and goats and pigeons and doves and all sorts of animals to God, there has now been one perfect offering in Jesus when he died on the cross. And he simply asks us to remember him in his death. And this we do, of course, at communion, when we normally go to church. At the moment we can't in our church, but there we are. Now, there's one feast that has not yet been fulfilled, and that is the Feast of Trumpets. There's no mention of trumpets when Jesus died on the cross. There are no trumpets sounded at Pentecost. And so the Feast of Trumpets has yet to be fulfilled. And we read how it will be in 1 Corinthians 15, where it says, we will not all sleep, we will all be changed. In a flash, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed. For the perishable must clothe itself with the imperishable, and the mortal with immortality. So one day, when Jesus comes again, and we don't know when it will be, the last trumpet will sound, and that final feast of trumpets will be fulfilled. And Jesus will come again for those who believe and trust in him. Those who've already died will be taken up to be with him, and we will join them in the air to meet with Jesus, our Saviour and Lord. Isn't that exciting? So I would encourage you to look back and remember Jesus and his death, to look forward to the time when he comes again, and in the meantime to be encouraged to fulfill that daily offering, that daily oblation, that daily walk with Jesus, daily prayer, daily reading of the word, and daily rejoicing in the salvation that Jesus has achieved for us. I pray the Lord will bless you today. Thank you.